The war of words continues to heat up between President Trump and California Governor Gavin Newsom. Trump now going as far as suggesting border czar Tom Homan should arrest the governor when asked by reporters at the White House.
I would do it if I were Tom. I think it's great. Gavin likes the publicity, but I think it would be a great thing. He's done a terrible job. Look, I like Gavin Newsom. He's a nice guy, but he's grossly incompetent. Everybody knows.
Newsom quickly responding on X, saying this is an unmistakable step toward authoritarianism. The feud is rapidly escalating between the two. Newsom has threatened to sue the president for sending 2,000 National Guard troops to Los Angeles in an attempt to quell the ongoing protests that have rocked the city for several days. Joining me now is the Hill's White House columnist Niall Stanage with more. Niall, this all started when border czar Tom Homan, who's since clarified he wasn't specifically talking about the California governor, said he would arrest anyone who stood in the way of immigration enforcement efforts. What do you make of this?
Well, I think it is important to say that Governor Newsom has not committed any crime. There's no credible evidence that he has committed a crime. It is also the case that President Trump has historically called for the prosecution or other similar actions against numerous political enemies of his. Now, politically speaking, I think the Trump-Newsom battle is interesting because part of it is sincere. They do have very obviously different views on the immigration question in general and, of course, on what the appropriate law enforcement response is to these protests that you're seeing on screen. As well as that, Judy, of course, there is the actual politics of it. I think President Trump feels that immigration is always a strong issue for him. I think Governor Newsom feels that he has to be seen to stand up to President Trump. So they both see at least the potential for political advantage in this battle.
A little historical context. The last time the National Guard was mobilized without the consent of a governor was in 1965 when then President Lyndon Johnson sent Guard members to Selma, Alabama to protect civil rights protesters. Now Newsom has threatened to sue the president over the deployment in Los Angeles. This is a battle both Trump and Newsom seem to be heavily leaning into. Where do you think this fight goes from here?
You know, obviously a lot depends on what the events are in the next few days in Los Angeles. Do these protests ease off? Do they calm down? Or is the situation further inflamed? As I was just saying, though, I mean, I do think that both the Newsom side and the Trump side see the potential for political advantage in this battle that they're having. It is obviously the case that Newsom is quite prepared to oppose Trump in the courts. I mean, California has essentially a fund set up for that purpose. And from the Trump side and the Republican side, California often held up on the right as a kind of symbol of liberal fecklessness, I guess they would say. And so in that sense, I would expect this battle to continue to intensify in the political sense.
The U.S. Northern Command released a statement saying approximately 500 U.S. Marines are prepared to deploy to Los Angeles. Has Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth or President Trump given any indication if and when we could see Marines on the street?
Not really. Now, the readiness of the Marines is, you know, pretty well established. I don't think it would take a long time if the decision was made to deploy them. That being said, it is almost universally accepted that the deployment of the United States military against civilian protesters can only be done under the terms of the Insurrection Act. President Trump has not invoked the Insurrection Act. During his first term, he threatened or mulled doing so around the time of the protests that followed the murder of George Floyd, but didn't ultimately do so. I think that would be the key crossing of the Rubicon if the Marines are actually going to be deployed.
Niall Stanage, thank you so much.
Thank you.